Today's question, how to get rid of prejudice.
I'm going to be really honest on this video with things I've been prejudiced about. Hello, Zippies. Ready to raise your vibration?
Let's do it. Great question.
It's a great question. Do you want me to speak first?
Hopefully it will be possible in our lifetime. So yeah. Go ahead. What do you
Okay, well, for me, first of all, you have to define prejudice, because prejudice unfortunately exists in a lot of different ways. People are prejudiced based on race. That's the obvious one. In the United States, we have always had black and white problems. There's a lot of prejudice against Muslims in the US, it appears. Well, there is. I mean, we've heard it. There's prejudice against women and discrimination that goes along with that. But there's also socioeconomic prejudice. Smart people can be prejudiced against people that aren't as smart as them, or educated people prejudiced against people that are less educated. People that know how to dress might be prejudiced against people that don't. Vice versa. Everybody can be prejudiced against someone for whatever reason. I have been prejudiced on various times for different things. I make very quick judgments on situations and people and things. It's easy to do. My most guilty prejudice is someone wearing a tank top with pit hair hanging out, baseball cap, just acts like they really don't care how they walk around society. It doesn't even have to be a fancy restaurant. If you're in a restaurant, you shouldn't be wearing that. You shouldn't be dressed like that, and it bothers me.
I think most prejudice comes from people thinking they're not anything like me. They're nothing like me, and it gives you a instant prejudice when you have those feelings. One way to break down prejudice: anybody you come in contact with, anybody you meet, anybody you look at, anybody you're watching on a video or whatever, find one thing and be able to honestly say, I'm a lot like that person in that way. Even if you can only find the one thing, you have got to connect yourself to them, because we're all connected on this planet. Every human on this planet is connected in some way, and there is at least one thing that you could, if you dig deep, you can find, yeah, I really am a lot like that person in that one way. And I have used that tool in my life, and it is a very powerful tool, and it really brings a lot of happiness into your life, and it does free little bitty prejudices, things that you don't even realize that are in your life that you may be clinging to. I'm for this, I'm for that, and I'm against this and against that. Well, break all that down and really just try to embrace each and every person on this planet as a human being. If you just imagine them as your son or your daughter or your mother or your father,
somebody you really
husband
love,
or a wife, I mean, try your best to love each and every person on this planet, because we were all brought here for a purpose. It's true. And if you believe that, then how could you be prejudiced against anyone, really?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. If you're interacting with someone and maybe they seem prejudiced towards you, something they don't like about you, and the interaction doesn't feel comfortable, it feels awkward. And if you hang in there with them, try to interact with them and find some common ground. People judge you when they see you, whether they're judging you because you have bushy blonde hair, or whether they're judging you because you have brown skin or black skin, or for whatever reason. If you're tall, if you're short, if you're rich, if you're poor, for whatever reason. I was interacting with someone at a cafe, a walk-up kind of situation. I felt like they were acting kind of like they didn't like me very much, and then I thought, well, maybe she's just shy. And it was a young black woman, and I felt like maybe she's shy, and she was really soft-spoken. And I kind of hung in there. I tried to find some common ground, and I tried to establish rapport with her, even though it was technically her job to establish rapport with me because I was the customer, but because it's someplace I go pretty often, and we ended up really having friendly conversations. And we even had a very awkward moment one time. She was trying to recommend this movie to me, and the movie had a band in it, and she was trying to describe it to me, and it had the N-word in it, and she couldn't say it, and I really wasn't getting it. I wasn't trying to be stupid, but I was like, what? I was like, who is that? And she finally said it, and I was like, well, but I'm not allowed to say that. And she said, oh, I know. And, we both were like, why is it this way? It just took a little hanging in there. If you walk up there and you're a pasty white girl and you don't have any tattoos or piercings, and they don't really know that you have this inner bohemian inside of you that has a lot of tattoos and piercings and pink hair, and you walk up and they have pink hair and tattoos, and we're different, but we're not different because we're the same. There's really no point in judging other people. And the guy with the pit hair and the tank top that I do find offensive at the restaurant, I immediately say, okay, I think I'm sensing, Holly, that you're really judging that guy. You're prejudiced against that guy. And so I'll say, you know what, we are connected. And you're saying find something in common with them. And for me, I just say that our souls are connected.
This is something inside your head to work with, just making a mental statement inside your head that, hey, I have that in common with this person. I'm a lot like them in that way. And it can be something very simple. We both like football. We both like basketball. We both love cars. There's so many things out there, and you can find common ground with just about everyone.
Mm-hmm. Stereotypes are hurtful. There was a while when blonde jokes were all the rave. Making assumptions about people just because of where they live or what they drive or what they wear, even how they speak. I've even talked to people who had lousy English, who were uneducated, that did not do well in school, and got to know them, and boy, were they deep. They were philosophical, and they actually were extremely intelligent. They just were not educated. I always remind myself that for which you show no empathy, you will experience. If you find yourself judging others, you're going to experience that. I used to judge people who were divorced.
I did too. Until you become divorced and you look around and it's like, wow, there's 50% of us that are like this. So, and all of a sudden I got over that real quick.
Yeah, nobody gets married thinking they're going to get divorced.
I think that some people do, but most people don't.
You get into that, divorce is not in our vocabulary. Good for you. I hope that if you become very unhappy that it is in your vocabulary, because it's a great thing. I judge people. Well, obviously, if they're getting divorced, they didn't try hard enough at their marriage. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Most people do try very hard at their marriage. If they get divorced, it's normally because they weren't a match to begin with. I've talked to very few divorced people who didn't say, all the reasons I got divorced, I knew before I got married. They were actually problems before I got married. Certainly was the case for me. Once I experienced divorce, I realized, oh, interesting. That was something I used to judge people about.
Right.
I think everybody has a certain amount of things that they judge people on, but I certainly don't judge people on race. So how to get rid of prejudice? It's interesting when we travel, because people know that we're from the South because, well, we got these handy dandy accents that go along with us when we travel. But it's kind of obvious that we're from the southern U.S. We have had really good experiences with people, but I did have one person that made a comment that she would never visit the southern U.S. because of all the racism there, which is interesting because unfortunately there's prejudice all over the world, and it's not necessarily isolated to the South. I certainly have seen it in other places. That doesn't make it any better that it's here. Just because it's other places, it probably makes it worse. But I did explain to her that is not the way it is where we live, and she's never visited there. I think you do get what you expect from people. I expect people to treat us well on our travels, and they usually do.
Yeah, I believe people can be misunderstood. It's just a different culture. You have to accept their culture. You have to allow yourself, when you're traveling, to adapt to their culture. You're visiting their house, their country. Allow yourself to get immersed into their world. Once you can see things from their perspective and from their eyes, you begin to understand better where they're coming from. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we really are a lot alike in that respect. And it starts to break down those prejudices. And it feels so good when you realize that people all over this planet are the same. Why are we even fighting? Why are we fighting? Because we're all the same.
Yeah. I think it was Hemingway that said how we get rid of prejudice is through travel. The more you travel, the more people you interact with, you realize that everybody really wants the same things. Travel has helped us a lot to get to know other people.
It really has.
Getting to know other people and how they live and what they do. I mean, a lot of people tell me that the Parisians in Paris were rude and mean and didn't like Americans and yada, 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 and gave me all these ideas, and I didn't find that to be true at all. So that's how we get rid of prejudice, is by traveling and getting to know each other a little bit. And what you said, Jim, is that know right up front that you have something in common with that person.
Right.
And try to find it. It's a little bit of a challenge, try to find the common ground. What do you have in common with them? That's how you get rid of prejudice. Have common ground with people.
Connecting with others is where it's at.
Yeah.
And you don't.
It feels good.
And even if you're not traveling, connecting with others at the drive-through, when you're going to the grocery store, everywhere you go, if you're connecting on a personal level, it feels good. It feels good to you. It feels good to them. It spreads the love. It breaks down prejudice and makes the world a better place. And that's really what it's about.
That is how you get rid of prejudice, is to spread the love. I don't think you can be prejudiced and loving at the same time.
No.
I don't think you can. That's not possible. And I think prejudice also comes from fear. I think a lot of emotions come from fear.
Right.
Fear of the unknown. You don't really know, and so you're afraid of that. The other thing, a big one right now, obviously, is the people who have the Muslim faith, Muslim religion. Their religion has been hijacked, unfortunately, by a small percentage doing a lot of bad things. You talk about fear. We're reading a book called The Faith Club. It's a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim. These three women set out to learn about the three major religions. They met through their kids' school. They wanted to learn about the three major religions in a way that they could teach it to their children, because that was how they wanted to get rid of prejudice. They did this in New York City, I think the year after the 9/11 attacks. This book is fantastic, The Faith Club. I'll put the information below in case you want to read it. I highly recommend it. It will give you so much insight. Well, first of all, this book is exquisitely written. It's extremely well written. You get the voice of all three women. Sometimes they're telling about experiences when they were away from the other two, so it's the only insight you had into their thoughts during that time. But sometimes they're telling about the times that they were in the same room or in the same conversation, but they're telling their side of the conversation, and the other one's telling her side of the conversation and what she was thinking about. So it's really extremely well written. Priscilla, Rania, and Suzanne are the three voices that you get to hear. And one thing I noticed by all three of them is that they now see prejudice in places they didn't even notice it before. If you're seeing prejudice in places that you didn't notice it before, it very well could be that you were sharing in that prejudice.
Right.
They're honest in this book. They're willing to come up and say, here's what I used to think about you, about your religion. I recommend this book to anyone who is worried that a lot of people are against you, because they're not.
The three of them changed their views towards each other by meeting once a week and talking. And it started out as that, and it didn't happen immediately, but talking, thinking, really getting to know the other person's viewpoint from an inside perspective. And then they started visiting each other's churches, and that's when things really started to happen. And then They still had outsiders attacking them and stuff, and they started to defend each other. And it really is fascinating the way it all came about. That really is how to break down prejudice, is talk. Let's all arm in arm talk to each other, heart to heart, get these issues worked out, because there should be no issues. We're all the same.
Evil persists when good people stand by and do nothing. So I guess that kind of gets into political correctness, but I do think there's some things that really aren't very nice to joke about, and certainly prejudice, I would put that up there.
Well, until people realize that things that they say are hurtful and prejudiced, then they won't change them. Bring it to their attention.
I worked with a man who made a lot of racial slurs about black people, and the first time he did it, I said, oh, you know, gosh, Barry, I really don't like comments like that. And the next time he did it, I said, Barry, I've mentioned this before. I really don't like to have racial comments like that made in my presence. These incidents were spread out over years, but the next time he did it, I said, Barry, you know, I'm going to ask you to leave my office. I just can't be in the presence of racism like that. I think you just have to say something. I think there are people who are not paying attention to what they're saying and what they're thinking, and maybe they haven't thought it all the way through. This was actually a man, this Barry guy could quote you scripture out of the Bible. So I'm sorry for that. You know, I'm sorry for that. That out the one side of his mouth is scripture, and out the other side of his mouth is bad things about people that are different than him. Why can't we just all get along?
It is up to us, each and every one of us, to monitor each other in a respectful way, not in an attacking way, in a respectful way like you did, and maybe that made a change in his life.
I hope we've made a difference for you in how to get rid of prejudice in the world, or how to get rid of prejudice in your life. For me, I don't protest or go out in public and proclaim these things. I try, what am I trying to say?
Make your space non-prejudice.
Right.
So if you witness prejudice out there, at the very least, walk out of the room and don't participate.
There you go. That's a good start.
Stop participating.
That's a good start.
Stop participating. Recognize it and stop participating, I think, is the first step.
Not participating is a good, that is how to get rid of prejudice. Don't participate.
Because I think people, they think it's popular, and you know, after 9/11 it was very popular to be racist against the Muslims. It just was. People latched on to an entire religion, and it wasn't fair.
I agree it was horrible, but it certainly wasn't everybody that practices that religion, and I refuse to hate an entire group of people because of their religion. I don't have to agree with you in order to respect you or even to love you, because we're connected, and I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. I want to be the change. That's how we can get rid of prejudice, if we all will just be the change that we want to see in the world. And I love your idea of walking out of the room.
Please leave us some comments. This is a big topic. We would love to hear what you think. We'll see you next time on Zippy Vibe.
And remember to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Have a Zippy Vibe day.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
If you want your question in the basket, put it in the comments below. If we think it will fit our channel, we will include it, and you might get a video made out of it. Why can't we just all get along?